Let me describe the organizational side a little bit more detail, the tension we were feeling. Um, I felt like as a business person, even though I was invited to be the business guy and keep my business hat on, the nonprofit side was still very much how do we generate income to fund the ministry? So they saw the profits as why we're doing this. I was there because, yes, we're generating profits for the ministry, but we're creating 10, 15, 100 jobs, and that's stimulating the economy. We have to pay fair, livable wages. We have to have these kind of, and we have to be profitable, which means you turn some people away who need your service, and which is hard for nonprofits to do. So there was always this tension of these are customers that are paying, and how do we cater towards that? But those, as you said, the missions aligned. If we made more profit, they were happy. But if we were making more profit, we were creating more jobs. So I was happy. So as long as those things correlate and don't detract from one another, then you have mission alignment and you can do it. But if that tension emerges where it's like, we have to choose here, hire people and pay them well and right, or turn customers away or make profit, when those things come against each other, then that's the challenge that nonprofits face significantly. The other tension organizationally was because we were trying to register with the government, they did not have a category for hospice care. It was just levels of hospitals. And so we were trying to start a for-profit hospice that was caring for the dying, but they were forcing us to create a maternity wing and an operational theater and x-rays and radiation and all this stuff that we weren't going to use just so we could register and be able to participate in the system. That felt very mission drifty because we felt like God was calling us to hospice care. And it felt like a compromise at time, like we're compromising more and more. We're investing money in things that we don't need. But we were going down a road. And I wish that I could say that ended in some great organizational open-minded, like, oh, God led us somewhere and we were so blind and stupid. No, COVID hit and we shut the whole thing down for a year. And so it's like, what in the world just happened? And my wife and I were basically evacuated out with our two kids at that moment when COVID hit, and the future was up in the air. Now, after COVID was over, we did open the hospital and we transformed to a full hospital where currently 5 years later, it is a functioning hospital that offers all the services. And so the leadership of the organization said, this still aligns with our mission. We're expanding our mission. We're pivoting, I guess you could say. And so the hospital is functioning in a full way. It has reached break-even point a few months, but we still take a financial hit every once in a while. So it's not a financial success 5 years later, but it is still functioning. And God has opened up great doors to care for many people. So that organizational thing is ongoing. Now let me tie it to the personal side. My kids are in high school now. We moved back and we live in the village and we're getting this thing up and running. And I am so passionate about the work I get to do. It's so excited. It's amazing to, like you say, find the right fit for what you're doing. My kids in high school hated living in the village. We were doing homeschooling. My wife said, I can be a teacher or I can be a mom, but I can't do both. And this is not sustainable. And all of the kids that were my kids' age in high school, they all go out to boarding schools. So no one was left in the village that was their age. And after 6 months, we said, this is not going to work. And so we ended up moving to Nairobi so that my kids could go to an international day school there. My wife lived there with them. And I started living the commuter life. So I'd fly up on early Monday morning, fly back late Thursday night. And that was hard on marriage. It was hard on me personally. I didn't feel like I had a home. I'm working up here. I kind of have friends on the weekends in Nairobi, but not really because I'm not there enough. My kids were loving life. Like the international school experience for my kids was, you'll ask them today, it's the highlight of their life. It was so amazing that I'm so glad they got to do that. But it was really hard. My wife, she loved being there, but she was not as passionate about the project as I was, the work. And so anytime hard times came, I was like saying to my wife, "Come on, we can gut through this. We can make it." And she's like, "Well, no, this is hard." And so that creates challenges that we faced in our family.
Mm. And how did you, so what did you do? How did you get through it? I mean, I hear you, and it's one of those things, and I hear, and this is
Yeah.
a very common, I'll use the term expatriate because it's broader than just missionaries. It's a
Yep.
very common expatriate experience that at some point the pressures on the family, different components of the family become
Yep.
so intense that it becomes almost
Yep.
unbearable. And I know for you it
Yeah.
was very
So
painful.
I
What
think
did you do?
yeah, I think in the moment during those years we were facing it, it was just daily decisions, like the decision to move to Nairobi. There was a lot of pain and discernment in that process. And then as I was missing my son's cross country meets, as I was missing my daughter's, she was in the drama thing and doing plays, and those are just painful moments. And trying to find community. Um, I think I don't know how we got through it during that time. The way we ended up getting through it was not by choice at all. It was evacuation. It was COVID hit, and we got sent home. So it wasn't like, oh, we figured out how to do this
Yeah.
perfectly. It was like we did this for 2.5 years, and we found a way to do it, but we weren't thriving completely. And so if COVID hadn't hit, I don't know what the end of the story would have
Yeah.
been there. I don't know if it would have been, yeah, we figured it out and A, B, and C, and God is amazing. Or if it was like, well, we're moving back home. And that was even more painful than the process we were in, because my kids loved their school. And my son had 1 year of high school left, and we were going back to America. My daughter had 3 more years, and they didn't get to say goodbye to their friends in person. I didn't get to say goodbye to my work employees because it was the airport is closing on in 2 days. You're on the flight, sell your stuff and get out. And I know that's traumatic, and it's not even as hard as some people have been evacuated out before, but it was really a time of come home, really broken people, move back into your parents' house for a few months during COVID where you're locked down, and start the counseling therapy process of how do I understand what just happened
Mm.
there? I'm in the perfect job. My kids are in the perfect school. And now boom, it's gone. And you just kind of go, what just happened? And so that was a challenging time that it's now been 5 years. We've had to really process, why did that happen? I like to say, okay, God created something new and great, and He did. The job I have teaching at Trinity Western is wonderful for me. I love the courses I teach. I'm really getting to tell these stories to students to prepare them to hopefully do the same thing. My kids are in college now; they're thriving in college. They're exploring. My wife is, working here with. So it's just like it's come around. But I think when we build this notion that God has a perfect ending, a perfect story, and it's all going to be beautiful. That's not been my
Yeah.
experience. It's been, this is painful, but still worth it.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that because so many people, we both know that we have a Christian mythology that, you
Hmm.
hit a hard time, God tests you, you grow, and then he opens a door and it's even brighter on the other side. Well, that's not always the way it works
No,
out. And I remember a friend of mine years ago, we were studying in the Old Testament together and about the Israelites that fell in battle. And he goes, kind of stinks to be them, doesn't it? And
no,
other Israelites are going on to victory and they're dead in the field. I said, but that's real life. It's
yeah,
not all happy endings. It has a lot of jagged edges. It doesn't always make it will someday, of course. We do know that.
yeah,
But and I'll say this for the sake of our audience, what you guys can't hear or see if you're watching this on YouTube, and what you didn't see that I saw in person in Vancouver is while Brian and George, his sort of partner in crime up there, uh, who we're also going to have on the podcast, I hope, because he's got another great story. But as they were sharing with the audience, this 200 Very diverse group of, in terms of age, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of every dimension, gender. Um, as
Yeah.
Brian is sharing and being very vulnerable, two things I noticed. One is there were a lot of people were teary eyed, not because you were trying to be Mr. Tearjerker, you weren't. You were just being real, and so people
Hmm.
were into that. But the other is, and I think this must be part of what God's called you to there at Trinity Western, is that you have a way with students. I mean, in that group out of 200 people, 185 people, I think there were like 60 university students, a few from
Hmm.
Regent, primarily from Trinity Western, and a couple other places as well. And you have an uncanny ability to connect with young people. And maybe you know that, maybe you've always had that, maybe you don't know that, but for me, that's part of what has come out of your experience
Yeah.
and the person that you are. The guy that I said, I want
Yeah.
to get to know this guy. I mean, I don't always say that with speakers,
Yeah.
but I did with you.
Yeah.
And so now you're there. You're still processing. Those watching, you can see Brian's face. He's still processing. I mean, this is not oh, I'm done. That's cool. I'm going to write a book about it. But you did carry on. You
Hmm.
persevered. You didn't give up.
Yeah.
And that's the evidence of God's faithfulness. What do you